make sure it goes. I've had a couple times when I couldn't get on either one.
Live on YouTube. Nice.
Is it? Is it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we're live on YouTube. Turn that. Let me get the link. Copy. Copy. Oh, already got a couple of people here. Okay, cool. All right. Let me open up Facebook so I can post it. Oh, I guess I should do a live too. Let them know. Same drill. Different day, bigger stick to start with.
Yeah.
Okay. Paste. Jeremy Lasman live now with Jeremy Lasman. Tag. Day. Jeremy Lasman. All right, live now, Jeremy Lasman. Okay. And I'll start it live now. Oh, this is getting, and it's okay, as long as we get to do it, right?
Yeah.
So for those of you, I'm on live on Facebook because once again, they will not let us go live from the Zoom room. And we have Jeremy Lasman, and we're on YouTube. And so I'm just letting everybody know, as I have been doing, I'm letting everybody know that we're on YouTube right now. And we're going to start in about 3 or 4 minutes.
Awesome.
With the second show of the day. All right. Let's see. Okay. So there we are on YouTube. Hello, Bruce Fischetti, Amanda Summer, Monica Ramirez. They're already in the room. Got 6 people on YouTube now. So if you guys are interested in watching our next show, our next broadcast, hey, Slavika, Diane Richards. If you guys are interested, thank you, Doreen. I just got that. Thank you. Brent Ritchie. How's it going, Brent? So if any of you are interested in watching the next show, the next broadcast with Jeremy Lasman, we're on YouTube now. And we have a few people there already. There we go. Hello, Christine Skilba, Nicole Howe. We're about to start a show on YouTube with Jeremy Lasman. We're already hooked up and ready to go. So for those of you who are interested in joining us, please come sit with us for the next hour on YouTube at SoulogyOneStudios channel. You can also find the link at the top of my page on the SoulogyOneStudios Facebook page and also in the Soulogy group at the top of the page. So the link is there to go to YouTube. We're in YouTube now. And we hope to see you there. Thank you. Yeah. All right, so let me make sure this goes through. Yep. Yeah. And let me just pull up YouTube here. Okay. Oh, there it is. Here we go. Okay. 13 people in the house on YouTube. Jamie Hodges, Jackie Atwell, Maria Iverson, Monica Ramirez, Amanda Simmer, Bruce Fischetti. If these shows resonate with you, please share. And thank you for the continued love and support and contributions that allow us to keep doing what we're doing by the seat of our pants, but we're making it happen. Welcome back to Soul Speaks 5D. Jeremy, what have you been up to for the last few weeks?
What have I been up to? Just launched my, it's called the Virtual Incubator program with a business partner. It's all about like helping people take an idea that they have and manifest it into reality. And it's a whole process that we call manifestation to market. So we just launched that last week, actually. And it's been really fun so far. I've been, I'm taking my own idea in there as well.
Oh, you? What's your idea?
It's a book that I've been procrastinating for a while now, and so I'm bringing it into Incubator just so I can have that accountability and that focus to, like, I have the draft down, but I've just been procrastinating on progressing it, and so that's the project that I'm bringing in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the book going to be about?
It is. So I talked about it. My work on one of the first or second show that I was on with you, the imagination technology.
Yeah,
and
I remember.
the book I feel is going to be the basics, the kind of the framework of my work, so that people can understand it from that kind of like introduction kind of way, where I lay out all my terms and the way that I see it. That's kind of what it feels like right now. It's still forming, but that's what it kind of feels like, is like the first book that gives you the introduction to imagination technology and the framework for what I feel of as an efficient means of facilitating someone's awakening. They'll be able to read it and get a sense of the whole big picture, so they're not confused about all of the changes and the shifts that they're feeling. They'll be able to get a big picture view about like what the evolutionary journey is as I feel it, and how to go about it so that it's not going to thrash you all over the place. And I hope it becomes a really good tool for support for either people that are just awakening or not even have a clue about what awakening is, and even those that want to like kind of advance their stuff as well. That's kind of what I feel.
Sounds good. So
Yeah.
So what is the overall? How do you describe that? Just in a summary, a nutshell. What's the overall, from your perspective? What is the overall situation? For somebody that's just waking up or not awake at all, and they pick it up. What are they gonna pick up on that?
They're gonna pick up on, like I said, I really love the big picture. And so when I paint it out for people, I think what they're going to get is the evolutionary component to what this is, what the next step is, what we are actually awakening from and into. So giving the people that kind of map of where we've been evolutionarily and like the human mind technologies, and then where we're going as an upgrade of that consciousness. So it's opening people up to starting to blur the lines between what we deemed of as kind of separate silos of our imagination, the science reality based one, and then the spirituality, the non-physical, the metaphysical, the stuff that we can't quite see with our eyes. Those have been kept in very separate camps. And I know a lot of practitioners are doing the same thing. They're trying to bridge that divide. And so I'm just another angle at that whole process.
Well, and how do you do that? I'm just curious. I'm really curious about it. I think that's great. I think it's new.
It's we talked about this last time too, is that multidimensional component I feel is so vital. And it gets, when you're fully immersed on the other side of the awakening and you're in the 5D and you're like speaking the language, I tend to have the compassion for those that have no clue what that even means, coming from that skeptical side. And so for me, I want to just be very deliberately going to the basics of like, what are thoughts? And then how to get people to understand multidimensionality without going woo-woo and too high flying. So it's really, my intention is to ground some of these high flying concepts with quantum physics and really bring them down so people can see them, grasp them, and not just be immediately skeptical when people say multidimensional or 5D, but give people the language and the imagery, the imagination to be able to see what the jump from 3D to 4D is, and the body to the mind, and the mind to the soul, and give people that journey so that they can grasp, again, the evolutionary journey of coming from this survival of the fittest, where everything really had to be very rigid and reality based, and safety, security, fear, everything inside that box of logic. It had to be very, black and white, to starting to awaken to this whole color spectrum of all the frequencies and all this imagination, that when you release that skeptical filter, you can start to understand, oh, okay, that's why this is happening right now, is that we're accepting more light. We have a capacity to hold more light as beings. And with that comes a more global / collective view about our interconnection and the oneness.
Yeah. So in other words, I'm going to take a wild stab.
Yeah.
Which I actually like it. So I shouldn't be favoring it, but I like this bringing it down thing. So you're taking the chakras out. You're taking the third eye out. I'm talking nomenclature, explanation, definitions. You're taking out the third eye, or the pineal gland, third eye. You're taking out, and you're bringing it down to layman's terms. And you're saying we as a species have a beehive intelligence that we all share. Let's call it a consciousness, or call it knowledge. And it only makes sense if you just look at history, that everything elevates. Technology elevates. We're technology. We're biological technology. And so this widening knowledge creates good stress. It creates expanded abilities and skills and awareness and all these things. And it is a force within itself that applies pressure to us in some way, that forces us directly or indirectly to grow, let go or be dragged. And this is what's happening. It's what you're basically setting the foundation there and saying this is what's happening to us.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Then you mentioned quantum physics, so this would be the next thing you can talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Quantum physics, the basic of the basics, being what I project into a certain scenario or person or place or whatever the case may be, can and will have an effect on it from my thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely that's definitely a big component of our influence as magnetic and energetic beings. I think when we talk quantum mechanics and quantum physics, and again, grounding this in very basic terms, I go to the computer metaphor, because quantum computing really is the mirror of what is actually happening in our shift. Because when we talk about the rigid mind that creates the fear and all of the scarcity-based perspectives, it's basically because the software and the hardware is still in that binary sense. Now, we have evolved, so there is gray, there is an aspect of gray, but the black and white logic of the 1 or the 0 is still the core of what our brains are processing data and information.
Yeah.
The leap here, the evolutionary leap that is happening, is our intelligence is ready to be able to handle more possibilities at once. Because when we go all the way to the God-like, divine, we're talking about infinite possibilities.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make sense for us in 3D, because we want a sense of contrast and limitation. We want an experience. So what we're doing is we're evolving, we're upgrading up beyond the 1s and the 0s to be able to see from this quantum 1 or 0 or the in-between, either or, neither, that superposition state, which it can be either or, but within that is higher frequencies. There, because we're notching up closer to the infinite.
Yeah.
And it's an expanded perception.
Yeah.
But if you're still running that old hardware and software, that's where it's going to start to get stuck. That's where it's going to produce a lot of pain and illness and all of that, is when the energy gets stuck.
Yeah.
But we're evolving, like evolution is pushing us forward, like you said, to be able to handle a bigger pipeline, like more bandwidth, like we're getting an internet upgrade.
Yeah. No, I get it. I'm going to go back to the layman's term. So I picture we're in a black and white world, like the old before color came to television, the old movies. So we're in this black and white world, and we get up every day, and it's a black and white world. You know, there's no other colors. There's a soft gray here and there, and but there's pretty much it's black and white. So then we get up one day and we start walking down the street, and all of a sudden we see a flash of pink blow up in the leaves of a tree. Now over here is this purple, but not all at once, just little flashes here and little flashes there. Hey, did you see that? Hey, did you see that? So I kind of see that. And then when you look at the binary part of it, so you see the 1 0 1 1 0 0 1 1 1, and you see this row of numbers. This is all we see. Again, it's black and white. And so what you're saying is, we wake up, or the next time we get up and we look at this equation, we start to see in between the spaces of the numbers, within the space of the zero itself, that little oval, we start to see other things. And again, we're like not seeing it all at one time, because we are not source totally awakened. We're seeing little flashes here and little flashes there. And so you're saying, okay, this is the game we're in. This is where we came from. This is where we are, and this is what's happening. Okay, we're starting to see colors. We don't see them all at one time, but we're seeing little flashes. Now, what do we do? I'm asking you. Next section. So this is great. So then, so once we have that foundation and understand what our evolution is and where we're at, because we really don't know what it will be, but we do know we're seeing some colors and we're seeing some energies and different things in between the ones and the zeros, in the space of the zero, and so on. Now where do we go?
Now, where I feel the next step is really has to do with our relationship with time itself, with the concept of time, with the tool of time. Is we start to look at it differently, because again, the old paradigm was all about linear time, and that was the process, and that was all we could process. It's going to like old CPUs could only handle one process at once, until we got multiprocessors and multiple cores. So linear time has been our construct for a long time. This view that there's a past that we're coming from on one line, and then there's this present moment, and then there's this one future that we're looking at. But now we're starting to open up to this quantum mechanics view, where there's multiple timelines converging. There's alternate realities, there's parallel realities. And then the way that we look at, we're not just coming from one line, we're coming from multiple lines. And then this moment right here represents a convergence of infinite number of timelines that could go in any different direction, north, south, east, west, above, below, all directions is that superposition state. And then we're not just in one line anymore at that point.
Yeah. So this is an extrapolation, or another, I hate to say analogy, metaphor. So again, linear time, black and white. Linear time, binary, ones and zeros. We start to see flashes of color in the black and white visual. We start to see energies, imprints, shapes, whatever, in the body of the zero, in between the ones and the zeros. So now we're talking about time, though. So what's happening here is we start to have memories of past lives. We start to have lucid dreams, which seem to be alternate timelines. We start to have glimpses of prophecy into the future, maybe, in that moment. All, as we were beginning to understand it, is relevant and is actually real.
Yes.
Okay. So it creates all these multiple perspectives, multiple colors, multiple energetic patterns and shapes and such on the binary part of it. And it's got us at a point where we doubt ourselves. Are we crazy? What's happening? What's happening to us, and how do we convert this power, this wider knowledge and such, into something in alignment with the highest good, with our best dreams, our purest dreams, our purest heart, and so on. How do we do that?
Yeah. I think what you perfectly illustrated there, especially when I go back to my awakening experience, is all of a sudden when that happens, you realize that you aren't alone. You realize that you are connected to this whole game, and you shift from this individually oriented perspective. Again, the individually oriented perspective is the linear time. It's this is my life, and my life has this past and this story and this future, to a collective based perception where it's not just my story, it's our story. And that shifts everything, because it's no longer my time that I'm writing, but it's all of time is here at the same moment. And that gives us that connection. So it really, that shift from individual to a collective, that my emotions aren't just mine, but what I'm feeling in my field is the environment as well, the empath thing. And that changes everything, because it's a different interactivity, it's a different means of processing our moment, that doesn't make it self-centered, but more of a collective thing.
So it's not a single processor, as with the binary, the black and white, and the linear time. It's a multi-processor.
Oh, and separation too is like the ego point of view is very separate. I'm a separate person and separate from everything else. Like that's the way it's designed. But once you see that there's a collective component, then it's like, oh, that separation, that's not actually.
Yeah. So that's part of the binary, the black and white, and the linear. So then this is great. So then the whole thing about oneness, the individual still is your base, your baseline.
Yes.
There's this collective out here, and we always talk about oneness. We're all one, we're all inclusive, but so there's a multi-dimensional part of this thing that applies both to the collective, but first and foremost to the individual. So that oneness, that alignment, has to start with your own aspects. You talked about these things that you're feeling as an empath. They talk about, oh, it's the collective, it's not me. Well, it might be. People use the word ancestral. That's me. That's my past life, or that's my alternate timeline, or that's my multidimensional aspect up in Venus. That I'm trying to clear something there. It's all. And I'm getting off your book a little bit, but we'll keep going.
Yeah.
But is it all? Let me rephrase it. Is it all being, telescoped or microscoped down to the human? As in, the human has the ability, the power, the divinity to actually cure it all, I guess. hear it all, and at the same time, still retain and feel very human, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
I think we were floating along really good, and then when you mentioned the word ego, which can't be taken out, it throws a wild card in there.
Yeah.
So just to back up a little bit, the what I put to you was, how do we convert this?
Yes.
And again, what you just said was, it's still oneness. It's beyond the linear explanation, the old cliches, new age, and all that stuff. That what I got from you, what I got from you, I think some of this is obviously happened telepathically, is that the oneness begins with the multiplicity of the individual, him or herself.
Yes.
So how can you accept the entire world, every color, culture, creed, and so on, as you, if you haven't, no judgment, but if you don't align all your multiplicity first,
Yeah, that's definitely why this book is coming out, I feel. So this is a great question. I love, and I use this word a lot in my ventures, imagination. This is really the cure, the key, imagination. So let me try to answer your question as well as I can here. As this time upgrade, as this shift happens, these awakenings, and we wake up from this very linear, constricting point of view where it's very separate and I'm the separate person, that individuality is still going to be carried through. Like you said, it's got to be there.
Yeah.
But now what's happening is the upgrade is happening to our imagination and that unity. So it's individuality and unity. And the way that I express this is, we brought up ego, which is definitely the psychological term for this. But what I use is the term self-conscious. I use the term self-conscious to represent all of these, the whole band of lower frequencies. The whole band of lower frequencies I call self-conscious, which contains the ego.
Yeah.
And what this meant was, in the old paradigm, old evolution, that black and white was, we only had plus and minus. We only had positive and negative.
Yeah.
Black and white, positive and negative, and that and there was only two choices. Again, 1 or 0, positive or negative. This is duality. What's happening in this intelligence upgrade is we're coming more online to this intelligence, this imagination, all possibilities, everything possibilities, which means that we used to have good and bad as the duality, but now good has a parentheses plus and minus, and bad has a parentheses plus and minus. There's a choice where good could either be plus or minus, can be a positive or a negative emotion. Like we can use the word interchangeably for that, and then bad could be a positive. It's the choice. We have choice.
Yeah.
And so this represents, so oneness is the spiritual term for it. In my work, I love to invent, so I call it quadility.
Quadility.
Quadility. This is the word I'm going to coin for my work. It's basically oneness, but again, for our intellect to be able to grasp what this means, I use this because it illustrates going from self-conscious, which is good, bad, plus, minus, black and white, to now 4 quadrants. 4 quadrants where good could be plus, good could be minus, bad could be plus, bad could be minus. And with more choice, the imagination can come online to give the self-conscious mind freedom from prison, from the matrix.
Yeah, I see that 4. I see that 4 over the last few weeks. particularly a few weeks ago, really jumped out at me. Like it's all been about the 369, Trinity, Triad. And then I started seeing this 4 thing. And I saw it again today talking with Shamir. He was talking about the dark masculine, dark feminine. Well, you also have the light, of the masculine of light, the masculine or the feminine of light. But you know what I mean. There's 4 quadrants, and they all come to the party. The other thing I love discussing this with you is because I'm into layman's terms. I think layman's terms to me more than anything respect the human being. How simple can you make it? That doesn't mean you can't use quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and big words and new words. And I love that word. But to me, whenever you were saying that, it was the linear, the binary, the black and white was plus and minus. And now there is an equal sign. That's what I got. I was like, oh my God, now there's an equal sign. So if you have the 4 quadrants on each side of the equation, there's an equal sign in the middle. And this is the new math that we're trying to figure out. I'm just thinking out loud here, channeling, whatever you want to call it. So if I choose a negative on this side, what's the alignment? Is it a negative on this side? And again, these are just terms. It's just nomenclature.
Right.
Is it a minus sign and a plus sign? Is it a plus sign versus a plus sign, a negative and a negative sign? What is that? And I think that's where I'm at with what we're discussing. You laid the foundation. You told the story of the evolution, where we came from, where we're at, and not from the Anunnaki and the reptilian and space wars and all that shit. But from the ground level, the human is the hero, the transition itself to human hybrid, going through this in our own little, spaceship where nobody else is, by the way, and sharing the information. So we get to this point, and they can talk about all this stuff out here externally, 3 days of darkness and all this stuff. But really, it's that simple. It's the binary, it's the black and white, it's the linear, all being given more color, more symbols, more wavelengths, more shapes. Are coming in slowly. They're coming in. Something's telling us that we can actually handle this, that we can actually take this in, where we've been, where we are, and begin to forwardly project, propel, create, manifest a higher good, a new earth, a heaven, a nirvana, whatever the case may be. It's a new math. We're figuring it out. So if that were the case, how do we do that? Is it a language or is it a feeling?
Yeah. It's logic connecting to emotion. That's the connective piece here. Logic has to connect to emotion for an insight to occur. And where I said self-conscious before, so I don't have a drawing away, but just imagine the coordinate system, right? The X, Y coordinate system is 4 quadrants. Yeah. Everything below the line represents the self-conscious spectrum, where there's still a positive side and a negative side, but it's still a low frequencies. And that's the self-conscious.
Well, let's say it's the known frequency.
Yes.
The experiential.
Yes.
The experiential. It's the known frequency, so that we get away from these, because it's so hard to define, because above the line is better than below the line.
No.
I know. I'm just saying for the sake of the discussion.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My own layman's mind. So this is what we know. Anything we've known as we experience things, that baseline point continues to move up. Whatever's above it is what we haven't experienced, and what is below it is everything we have experienced. Okay, keep going.
Yes. So building off that, so I love the way you put that. So yes, it's below the line, but yet there is still a negative charge and a positive charge.
Yeah.
So the x-axis represents the emotional charge. The y-axis represents vibrational frequency. So again, like that equilibrium, that's the equilibrium, and we exist on this self-conscious frequencies. Above the line, as you said, represents self-awareness.
Yeah.
Everything above the line is self-awareness, self-conscious self-awareness. That is the transformation. And I love Waking Life's definition of self-awareness, which is realizing that you're a dream character in another person's dream. That to me is just a perfect way of illustrating the power of self-awareness, because it's when you wake up from this personalized, ego-driven model where it's the state of personhood. That's the self-conscious is I'm a person and that's it, to where self-awareness is the divinity, where you wake up to presence and the greater picture about who you are. And so you see these competing as the frequency differences. When you're a person, you're very constricted, you're very dense, you're very burdened by things because it's a lower frequency. But when you awaken to divinity, all of a sudden you're lighter, you're carrying less because you're no longer carrying all this time with you anymore, the stories about who you are. And so to illustrate this kind of, it turns out to be a spiral when you wake up from the flatness of the duality into the third, like the spiral, which is this is healing, where we go from a negative, self-conscious pain, trauma, whatever it is, where we're very low, the depression, all of that, to, okay, what is the gift here? What is the lesson I'm supposed to learn? That's a polarity flip, looking at your illness as a gift, looking at what you're struggling with as, all right, what's the lesson here? That flips the polarity from a negative to a positive, but we're still low frequency, but we flip the polarity to learning the lesson, learning the gift through self-awareness. Now we're at a higher frequency. That's healing right there. We've gone from my life being negative, I'm depressed, to, oh, this depression is teaching me about my power. Like this is actually my power.
Yeah.
To boom, now you're flying. Now you're self-aware. Oh, that depression has no power over me. And you've learned the lesson. And so you can leave that frequency and start to evolve higher and higher.
I think one of the, that's beautiful. I think one of the issues is this quantum leap. So we're in this linear world, and then we want to go to a spiral.
Yes.
And there's a space in between. And I love the grid, the coordinates of the grid example. So you have the x-axis and you have the y-axis.
All the way around.
Whatever. You know, you have a line here and a line here. It looks like that. Looks like a plus sign.
Yes.
You have 4 quadrants. Beneath the line, as I'm seeing this explanation, and remember there's another line running vertical, which for that lower echelon, that lower realm, if you will, is 0 point. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's a vertical 0 point, and you have a plus and a minus beneath the horizontal line.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So this is the shift you're talking about. You're talking about here in this recent past or whatever, the experiential, what's been lived. You can take one side of it and get to the other side of it. You can take it, you're using the example of an illness. You can take the negativity, the connotation of negativity with that, and you can change the perspective and flip it, and you're now on the positive side of the 0 point.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
As below, so above.
Yep.
Okay. So we go from this linear to a 4-quadrant, kind of a double linear.
Yep.
Okay. Which will make it easier for us to go into the spiral thing, because that is a reality.
Yep.
It isn't. It's not straight lines. It's curves and circles,
Mm-hmm.
and infinity signs and so on. I think that would be a great way to explain it to people. I don't know how you're writing your book, but I think that's one of the things I'm seeing talking to you is we try to go from this pure black and white to this spiral, multi-dimensional thing, and there's a big space in between that we have to ascend through or transcend through, and the logic and emotion is involved, like you were talking about, which makes it a challenge.
Yep.
Because we want to prove it out, because I got hit with energy today and I don't feel so good, or all those human things, which in some crazy way is really the core of it all. That's really the propeller. That's really the search engine, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking a quantum computer or whatever, but that's the search engine. That's where you query everything, and you can't. And maybe that's the heart. You know what I mean? I don't know, but there's something. The curiosity, the innocence, the power of all that, creation, manifestation, and all that. But I love this imagery of the diagram of the soul's coordinates.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's multiple, but it's still singular.
Yes.
In that this is one soul. Where are the coordinates of this soul? And anywhere that you're negative, you have a diagonal and you have a horizontal.
Mm-hmm.
You can flip it any time. It's a really great image to me of the spectrum of an individual.
Yeah. And honors free will and choice. It's not about taking things away, or it sort of is, but it's about not telling people what to do, but giving them all the choices. Yeah.
And it's a bit tricky now because we've taken this experiential, and everybody has gained something, some type of insight, some type of knowledge, some type of wisdom, some type of skill, ability, and everybody wants to help. Everybody wants to share. Everybody wants to contribute to the transformation of the world, however you want to put it, the family, the community, the village, the city, the town, the country. But we're moving into a space where it's like we don't have to do that anymore. In fact, it's almost counterproductive. Morgan will say to me for 3.5, 4 years, I'll say, "You already knew that, didn't you?" She's like, "Yeah, I did." I said, "Why didn't you tell me? Because why would I steal that from you? Why would I take that away from you? You can tell me something, Jeremy. I can tell you something, but until we actually experience it, it doesn't mean anything. So this is weird. It's like throwing in this wild card into the whole equation, where we want to just say, throw this adage out, or this mantra out, or this declaration out, and it'd be a blanket cure-all, cover-all, and it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like a linear paintbrush. You're trying to paint a wall in the linear world as you did in the linear world with one stroke. When you try to do it in the multiple dimensional reality that we're finding ourselves in, it doesn't paint even a fraction of what's there.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Spot on.
This is cool.
Thank you.
So when are you going to have this book out?
I plan on getting a lot of it done this month.
The next time I ask you a linear question, just slap me.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll just say, when are you going to have the website out? Just say that.
From the quantum perspective, it's already done, right?
Yeah, but that's another subject too. Yeah, but that's the reality, and that's why I was talking about the linear to this spiral.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it's more like. Because that goes up and down. It goes this way. It goes that way.
The z-axis.
The linear is just flat.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of space in between. So people talked about the secret,
Mm-hmm.
law of attraction, until it just, for me anyway, just like, like get over it. Okay, it's not that simple. I can't sit in a room on a yoga mat and going, I want this, I want this. No, there's something else. There was another component that was missing, and I think we're coming into that.
Yep.
But the imagination, which has always been the attraction I had to you, was the term imagination technology. Our imagination is our power. It's our laboratory. It's our workshop.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like, again, back to the 4 quadrants and the baseline on the horizontal. Below it is the experiential. Above it is we haven't been there. But we have the power of what we've experienced, both in this incarnation, past life, future, alternate timelines, and such. And we can put all that together and say, somehow, I'm not saying this is how you do it, or it's this easy. What do I want to create? What I want to create.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a weird math. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird math because you can never step above that horizontal line, because that is fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Because you haven't lived it. The present is the present, period.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It really is. The present is the present. I mean, but what you can do is you can take the power of all these experiences and you can put it in the laboratory and say, this is what I want. And then be blessed or burdened, challenged or supported with the actions you take in the present moment. It's very strange.
Exactly.
It is. And there's a lot of people doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's not all peaches and cream. But there's a lot of miracles happening too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Such as having a rough mid-morning and then coming on with Jeremy. I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do this. And then getting your snap in 5 minutes. But no, I'm serious. This is where the magic is. It's actually in jumping in the pool with both feet, jumping in all the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And to kind of, put it back to what we were talking about, what I think a lot of personal development out there kind of misses is they make it seem like an addition game. Like the game is about addition. Yeah. So it's about like, okay, pile on information and that will help evolve you. And I'm not saying it doesn't work. People find success with that model. But for me, and the way that it works for me and the way that it feels most efficient and elegant is it's a game of subtraction. It's a game of subtraction because what I'm supposing with my theories is that the more that you start to take away of this self-conscious side of things, the more you get closer to who and what you truly are. Because if you understand technology, the reason why technology is evolving so fast and Moore's law and the exponential kind of speed of it is because it's not using 1980s technology and trying to add things to it. They take it away and they start with brand new things. Like that's what technology is. So if we can take that analogy to our brain, what I'm painting here in this like base framework layman's trying to get it, understood is there's complexity, so much complexity to the brain. Mm-hmm. But at the essence and the distillation, we're talking about light to light communication. Neurotransmitter is light.
Circuitry.
And circuitry, exactly. Light traveling on circuits. We take that complexity, we simplify it down to one light beam, and then that becomes what we're actually zooming into. One light beam, and all light is the same.
Yeah. One
from
language.
From that, we can see the old hardware and software is based off of binary, duality, information technology, ones and zeros.
Yeah.
And so what is really the upgrade path here is wiping that all away, going to the core and making it imagination technology, quantum light flow, higher frequencies, not just ones or zeros, but quantum qubits, as they're called in the quantum computing world. And with that comes more data and higher frequencies, more unity and more power, all of that fun stuff. But your body, your hardware and software has to be ready for that amount of power. It's a lot of power. It's a lot. That's why when people have bad drug experiences, it's because they're opening up to infinite potential, but their bodies are only ready for third dimension linear ideas. And so it literally blows their mind and like crashes everything. And that's what's happening.
Yeah, I just got another thought. You know, there's been a lot of talk about shadow work. You know, we can't go to a higher elevation of light without going through shadow.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go through light to get more light. You can't. That's the plus sign, whatever you call it. So what is shadow? Is that not anything more or less than our experience? If, for instance, if you want to just take it out of the personal and out of the emotional and go back to the binary versus the quantum,
yes,
or the floppy disk to the hard disk, you know,
yeah,
the floppy disk was, you know, it was archaic, it was inadequate, it was slow, it was this, it was that. Is that a fucking shadow? From our perception, is our experience a shadow when it really was nothing more than another program that got us to where we were before we made the next leap, the next level of technology? It's almost like taking out the God, this is weird. Neil Morgan talks about it. You know, it's just like, do we get to a point where it's not emotionless, but it's coming from a place where you still have love and such. But I mean, you're looking at something like that. You're looking at something like emotional interaction and traumas and dramas and whatever that occurred in your past that made up your experience. But looking at it as, hey, that was the floppy disk. Now we're in the hard disk era. Now we're in the whatever they are now, solid state era, or whatever the case is. I mean, it sounds kind of weird because it kind of impersonalizes it, kind of takes out the sensitivity, because the emotions are part of it. Like you said, the logic plus emotion creates the, you know. But I like that schematic because half of it is lived and half of it is not.
Yes.
You know, and yeah, so we're always creating the coordinate location above from below, because the below is all we have, and the present is that little thin line, you know, between conscious and unconscious or intuitive. And
I would even say it's the point right in the middle.
You're right about that.
So
right.
shadow is an interesting. It's what I gather in fitting it within what we're talking about. Shadow, I think, at its essence, is fear, and going towards the universal game of love versus fear. That is like the macro duality happening for a soul. Love versus, like, that's the main, like, that's the macro conflict of consciousness, love or fear. That's very simple, and even I kind of disagree with that because of the sensitivity to it. But at core, that is probably the most simplest way of understanding the consciousness game. Shadow, when I hear that, what it draws up is, if we're a body and there's light, there's going to be a shadow behind us. And going towards this self-conscious, lower frequency thing that we're talking about, that represents us thinking that we are the body. And so if we think we're the body, then we're going to have a shadow, because the self-conscious is designed for our survival. And so it has to have the evolutionary pressure, the person again, the conflict, the how do I say that? The
contrast.
The contrast, the inner conflict that keeps us progressing, the thing that the negative aspects of ourselves that we think we're against and we're fighting against, that represents this shadow. Because once we project ourselves as this person, then there has to be an equal and opposite anti-person. Like that's the balance. And so when we're talking about when we're facing the shadow is looking at that whole illusion from a oneness perspective, or quadrity, seeing the whole balance and realizing, oh, neither of these are me. The me that I think is me is not me. And then they come together. You make a new relationship with your darkness, with your fear, which is just, okay, I see light here, like that's light. But the closer and closer that we get to the source, we're getting closer and closer to before light. Before light emerges, it has to come from darkness.
I get that. That's why, and I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm going, we spend so much time, we from the mentality that we're removing shadow. Well, if you are in this vessel and there's light, you'll have this shadow. So as you remove, if you have a mentality of separation, and I'm removing shadow, I'm removing self, right? Yep. Versus, this is my shadow.
Yes.
Wherever I go, my shadow goes with me.
Yeah.
And part of this whole thing that's happening is you're talking about it, and this, what is the word?
Unprogramming?
Depersonalization. In other words, at the level of self to soul, me and my universe, where nobody else can enter, that self-judgment, that the absolutes we lay down, shadow is bad, or all this. Look, it's me. Like you said, if it's not there, I'm not here, and if it's this, I'm this. So it's the same thing. It's a weird, because this is like real time, cutting edge, layman intel from the trenches where we're doing the work. So I welcome your book, and I think it'd be fascinating. Yeah, I think it'd be fascinating.
Yeah.
All in non-linear time. Godspeed to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Major work for the shadow of my perfectionism, for sure.
Well, without the shadow, what is the shadow but the ego?
Exactly. Oh, exactly.
Really, I mean, I know many of us, not me, but I mean, many people I know have been through a lot of, on the surface, from a human perspective, very traumatic, horrific episodes. But when you get right down to it, what is the shadow but the ego? And on that plus sign, those souls happen to go way down, down into the negative vertical line. That just tells me that they can go that degree above that horizontal line. So
exactly.
So is that a shadow? Burdens are blessings, and blessings are burdens.
Boom. Yeah, that's the polarity flip right there.
Yeah, isn't it? Very cool. Yeah, we went too long without talking.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we definitely. I want to be on as much as you'll have me. I'm willing to come on for sure. And I'm feeling a trip to Hawaii soon, so I want to visit you.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Absolutely. Yeah. Where are you at?
Los Angeles.
Oh shit, man! You're only like 250 round trip.
Right.
Yeah. Hawaiian Airlines round trip. Yeah. Take it easy, brother.
Thank you very much, Todd. And
All
thank you
right.
everyone for
Good
joining.
luck. Good luck. Let me know if I can help you in any way. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back in, what, hour and 52 minutes with Ron Hall.
Bye, everybody.